So now that I've made MrBeast lawyers very unhappy, let's first talk about chocolates and child labor.
All right, so the next thing, another MrBeast allegation we're going to go over here is child labor.
I've been tracking all the MrBeast accusations, and while some are worse than others, I think this one is by far the worst. In this video, I'm going to
by far the worst. All right, the worst.
Try to prove 2 points. The first is that MrBeast and Feastables is using child labor and forced labor for their chocolates and has been since around late 2023. And the second point is more damning. I believe that since the beginning of Feastables, MrBeast knew that he was going to use child labor and forced labor for his chocolates, but he tried to fool us into thinking otherwise. Let's get honest.
I haven't noticed Mr. Obvious in chat since he watched that video. Well, I banned him from chat, so that would be why. Because I don't, you know, he was weird. I banned him from chat when I saw that.
Look, I review chairs, home office tech, and gaming stuff. I am not a journalist, although I think in another life I could have been a decent one, and I am not an activist, nor will I pretend to be one. This shirt cost 20 bucks, so it was probably made using some kind of exploitation.
Based.
All that being said, I think I found some damning stuff about Feastables that I thought you should know. My editor and I took a lot of time to research this, and of course, everything in this video is alleged, and the conclusions are my own opinion. So now that I've made MrBeast lawyers very unhappy, let's first talk about chocolates and child labor.
Have you ever seen the numbers of people that are working in chocolate, that are working in like horrible conditions?
Around 20 years ago, a series of news stories and a documentary found that young children, some of whom had been enslaved or trafficked, were working on cocoa farms that supplied major chocolate companies.
If you walk by a chocolate store, you never say, oh, child labor.
Oh, yeah, a lot of kids died for that chocolate you're giving for your...
A lot of little, tiny, unformed bodies are being...
It is weird how something seemingly so innocuous has, like, such weird ties and allegations going on, you know? Like, I mean, you know, gas up Wendigoon a little here. He recently made a video about the banana republics, which for those who don't know are essentially countries in South America that American companies, quote unquote, contracted labor out to farm bananas and, you know, get fruit in the United States, right? The United Fruit Company, I think, was the company he talked about. And the sketchy thing about it was that, well, sketchy to say the least. And by the way, everything I'm saying is like proven in this video. Like, it's all publicly released documents. Essentially, these workers that were there were very underpaid. They were living in horrible conditions. They weren't getting, you know, medical help. If they couldn't work for long enough or had an injury, they would just get fired and get replaced because they, you know, United companies saw them as replaceable. And so people in these countries got mad, right? They got mad and they wanted to demand better pay, stuff like that. So what the United Fruit Company did is they talked to the U.S. government and they're like, hey, these people want equal pay. That's called, or they want better pay. They're forming a union. That's called communism. And the United States, because it was like during the Red Scare, they were like, oh, what the communism, we need to deal with this. So the United States, in the interest of protecting America's economic interests, but under the guise of preventing the sort of dissemination and spread of communism, which could destroy capitalism or whatever, right? What they did is they deployed the CIA to train militants and also send in military insurgents to kill people they didn't like so the United Fruit Company could continue making money off of unfair labor, essentially. It's pretty crazy. Proven in his video, telling us world history. Yeah, I know it's world history. What I'm saying is just that his video is a decent place to compile it all. Do you think I'm saying that Wendigoon is the only person who's ever talked about this or has ever found out about it? You really think that's what I'm saying? But it's an easy place to see all the information if you want to see it. So, like, it's not surprising to me that chocolate companies are potentially doing the same kind of thing as far as, like, you know, just exploiting cheap labor. I mean, cheap labor is putting it lightly. The Me Canyon video about the Costco guys is a parody of how Kirkland has slaves making chocolate. You should watch it. I did watch it, actually. It was funny. I didn't know Kirkland has slaves making chocolate, though. I didn't know that at all.
Forced to dig holes in the ground.
Like many other industries, chocolate is notorious for its exploitation of
Mars, Nestle, and Hershey pledged nearly 2 decades ago to stop using cocoa harvested by children. Yet much of the chocolate you buy still starts with child labor. Damn.
Children using child labor and slave labor. They use child labor, forced labor, unsafe conditions to farm these cacao beans that eventually makes its way to become chocolates at your table. And oftentimes these farmers, they are too poor to ever even eat the chocolate itself. Case in point, Feastables is made in Peru, but guess where it's not sold? Peru.
He has been waiting for a long time to try MrBeast chocolate, but it is not available in his country, Peru. He went straight.
What is with this AI narration? Peru. It is not available in his country, Peru.
from the airport to Walmart to get them.
This exploitation is well documented, and brands such as Hershey's and Mars, and perhaps we're going to see Feastables today, are notorious for refusing to eliminate child labor and slave labor from their supply chain of chocolates. With that being said, I'm going to try to prove my first point, that MrBeast is using child labor and slave labor for his chocolates today and has been since late 2023. When Feastables first launched in January of 2022, if you went into their FAQ, their frequently asked questions section, they proudly displayed that they were child labor free and slave labor free. As a matter of fact, in April of 2023, they doubled down and they added to their list of main menu options this option that said, we're slave free. And if you clicked it, it had an entire dedicated...
Me when I don't have any slaves? I don't have any slaves. Missa, I've been editing your videos for years. I'm a slave, Missa. I ain't got no money. You made me work. Boy, shut up and edit my YouTube video essay. But Massa, I don't want it. Boy, you edit that YouTube commentary video or you ain't getting corn for dinner. Massa, please. Massa, please. Shit, boy. What you want? Equal pay? Fuck you think I am? YouTube millionaire? I mean, I am. In today's video, I got 100,000 slaves from the 1800s to farm cocoa for my Feastables. Missa, I don't want it no more, Missa. Please, don't make me do it. Please. I don't want to pick the cocoa beans no more, Missa. You better do it or Chris Tyson will get you. Now subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. I released Chris Tyson onto my plantation to see if he would make my workers work more overtime. I released Chris Tyson onto my plantation to see if the slaves were more scared of molestation than they were of being whipped. Missa, please, leave me alone, Missa. No, Chris, no. No, Chris. Chris, I don't want it again. Chris, I don't want it again. Chris, I don't want it. Boy, you better work harder. Chris is gonna get you. Chris gonna get you. Hoo-hoo, there he is. Chris got you. Look at him run. Look at that boy run. MrBeast bloat Max to Delaware. Should learn to play the piano. So you'd be in my house, playing for me and my wife, instead of picking cacao beans. I'm sorry, Missa. I'm trying to learn Mozart right now. It's hard. Oh, the Turk is hard. Boy, you better learn how to play the major chords. You ain't never making it out of the fields. Chris is gonna get you. MrBeast bloat Max of Delaware. MrBeast. MrBeast, I don't want to do it no more, Missa. No, MrBeast. Chris Tyson, buck breaker base.
Page talking about how they were free of slave labor and child labor. But just a few months later, in October of 2023, that main page item that said we're slave free, that was removed. In addition, in the frequently asked questions section, that stuff about being child labor free and slave labor free, that stuff
suspicious. That is
also
suspicious.
Disappeared. Later in May of 2024, and
you're a C player straight to the cocoa plantation. Jesus Christ. Yeah, C stands for chocolate picker. That's what C stands for.
To this day, there's no mention whatsoever at all about any kind of ethical sourcing of ingredients. If you're thinking, oh, it's a mistake, or maybe they forgot, I think the chances of this being true are less than 0.001%. You see, MrBeast prides himself on hiring the best of the best, and there is no way marketers would forget to put this kind of information on their website because it would boost their brand favorability in the eyes of consumers. It's likely then that MrBeast is now using child labor and forced labor for Feastables chocolates. This is especially bad because it means that MrBeast and the Feastables team were very aware that child labor and forced labor, slavery, exists in the chocolate industry, and yet...
Wait, he must have actual proof of this though, right? Like, it can't just be that he removed it, therefore he is doing child labor, right? He's got to have more than that. It's very possible. Like, I wouldn't necessarily doubt it. I don't think MrBeast's convictions and morality are necessarily above it, but all he has can't be that he removed it from the website, right? There's got to be more.
Decided to take advantage of the most weak and the vulnerable among us for personal gain. This is a bad look for any company, but it's worse for MrBeast because he puts on these large public displays of being a philanthropist and a role model to young children. Now, my second point is more damning. I think MrBeast knew the entire time, since the beginning of Feastables, that he was going to use child labor and slave labor for his chocolates, but he tried to trick us into thinking otherwise. To try and prove my point, I'm going to first talk about the Feastables packaging, and then I'm going to talk about the kosher and halal certifications. When MrBeast first launched Feastables, it was in line with his brand. They were clearly trying to do things ethically. They actually got a certification from the Rainforest Alliance. The Rainforest Alliance has major issues, but they push for protecting and improving forests, climate, human rights, and livelihood. Once you are certified, you're able to use their logo, which is a little frog, on all of your products, your website, on all of that stuff. When I saw the packaging for Feastables, both old and new, there was no Rainforest Alliance certified logo anywhere. Now, why would these brilliant marketers choose to leave that?
I mean, it's very interesting, but I feel like here I haven't really seen any evidence that he is using slave labor, right? Like, this is more speculative in my opinion. I feel like there's got to be more here.
That off when that would, again, boost your brand favorability in the eyes of consumers. The only conclusion that I can think of is that MrBeast knew. He knew that one day they were going to get rid of that certification. You see, if one day that package has a frog logo on it and the next day it disappears, people will notice. They will especially notice because the Feastables bar, MrBeast sent this thing to everyone, to all the huge YouTubers. He ran competition.
Bro, there's got to be more here if you're going to accuse him of using child labor, right? Like, there's got to be more here. Obviously, it's not a hot take to see child labor is bad. To the people saying who cares, every company does it, that's exactly the point. MrBeast is not the saint everyone thinks. He's a scummy businessman. I think that's probably true. But I don't know that he used child labor for his chocolate, right? There's got to be a little more. Last child slave to stop picking cocoa wins half of Feastables bar. Based.
He got people to take selfies with it, take pictures on the shelves. This thing has a paper trail 10,000 miles long. And again, if one day it had that frog and the next day it was missing, people were going to notice. So instead, they decide to only put it on their website because at the end of the day, who the hell reads a website except for weirdos like me? And if it was on the website one day and then gone the next, no one would notice except for, again, weirdos like me. And sure enough, if you look at their website today, there's nothing about the Rainforest Alliance certification, nothing about being child labor free, nothing about being slave labor free. By doing it this way, I think they tried to fool everyone into thinking that their chocolate is still child labor free and slave labor free. At the very beginning of their launch, they kind of made a big deal about it. Not enough, not a huge holler so that it was integral to their brand, but just enough so that if you Google Feastables child labor, all the articles are from their initial launch and they talk about how it is those things. But now it's nowhere to
MrBeast realized that child slave labor made the chocolate taste better after people said it tasted bad. Yeah, you know, it's like blood, sweat, and tears, you know. Talk about blood, sweat, and tears. Boy, you better put some more blood in that chocolate. The iron in it makes it taste better. People just don't like it without that blood. MrBeast, I don't want it no more. I don't want to put my blood in the chocolate no more, MrBeast. Wait till you find out about the child sacrifice ring with Chris Tyson. It's beautiful.
Be found and nobody has noticed. As a matter of fact, if you go to slaveryfreechocolates.org, which is a website that promotes
Red 40. The Red 40 is just human blood. Bro, that's dark. That's dark. Oh, that's dark.
Chocolate brands that are ethically sourced, Feastables remains on that list despite no longer meeting the requirements to be on that list. As far as I can tell, not a single person or website has picked up on this change, which is why I'm making this video.
That is a really interesting change. I just wish there was more here. Like, I don't know if I necessarily just believe that there was slave labor going on because that was removed from the website. Like, that very well could be the case. It is very curious he removed that. It's like, what's going on there? But for me, it is just like, it's like a you know.
The second reason why I think MrBeast knew that he was going to use child labor and slave labor is because of the kosher and halal certifications. This one requires a little bit of stretching, but in June of 2023, Reed Duscher, I don't know how to say his last name, MrBeast's former manager, Reed, who is still sitting on the board of Feastables, he did a tour of the MrBeast chocolate factory in Peru. And that video isn't all that important except for the very end, where he thanks Machu Picchu Foods for the tour.
Thanks to Machu Picchu Foods for having us. We literally got to see everything from how cocoa is created to how we create MrBeast bars.
This tells us that Machu Picchu Foods is or was the manufacturer for Feastables. Now, Machu Picchu is also Rainforest Alliance certified, they're also kosher certified, and halal certified. But here's the thing, Feastables has never, since its very beginning, ever been kosher certified or halal certified. How is that possible when the manufacturer are both of those things? Now, you might be thinking, maybe it's because Machu Picchu Foods does some of it and then someone adds stuff to the chocolate later.
Yeah.
However, in that video with Reed, they actually show that Machu Picchu Foods, it seems like, takes it from cacao bean all the way to packaged candy. Why is it that the manufacturer says their chocolates are kosher and halal, but Feastables says it isn't? Well, I think this line from Reed has something to do with it.
Pretty wild. We have 4 chocolate lines going and we can't meet demand.
So we need way more chocolate.
I think MrBeast knew all along that they would have to scale. And when they scaled, they were going to move away from Machu Picchu foods. That means away from their halal certification, away from the kosher certification, away from the Rainforest Alliance certification. And that's why they chose to omit these things from their packaging. Because if one day it was kosher and halal, and the next day it wasn't, then people might start to ask questions as to why. And when they ask questions as to why, they might also discover that, you know what else has been changed? The stuff about...
That's super interesting. I mean, there could be some real weight to this is the thing. Like when scaling, he basically just, like he didn't care at all about whether the people who were doing it were exploited because he wanted to scale it more. But once again, my big question is like, this could be the case. Maybe I'm being off base here, but I feel like I need to see a little more to totally believe that he is using slave labor. It is like a big, what's going on? But it's not necessarily like, I know that there's like, you know, kids in Peru that are like, you know, picking this for 1 cent a day, you know, picking cocoa for 1 cent a day. Is evidence they remove text from the site? Well, it's not just the removal of text, because the removal of text shows something. The removal of text shows that they're no longer claiming it's slave labor free. So the implication is like, well, does that mean you're using slave labor now because you're not claiming that anymore? Which is really interesting. But I just want to know, I want to know more, you know. I'm kind of willing to believe this. This seems like it's very possible. But yeah, I would just like to know more about the company they're working with now and their practices, right?
Child labor free and slave labor free. Why would MrBeast do all this? The simple answer is money. MrBeast has never been shy about telling the world that Feastables was created to fund his videos. And he has also never been shy about complaining about sponsors and how he felt like he wasn't getting paid the adequate amount for sponsors. This is why he created Feastables and why he promotes Feastables in every single video and at every opportunity he gets.
That's true. YouTube sponsors don't pay enough for the benefit they get. They lowball YouTubers a lot. Can they just stop being slaves, or is it a skill issue? Great question, bro. I wonder.
But if you're constantly selling out of chocolates, like MrBeast has posted he has multiple times, that means no more money. I think MrBeast knew all along that this was going to happen, so he prepared for it in advance. When he first launched Feastables, he played up just enough. He played up the card of being slave labor free, child labor free, just enough so that people would notice, but not enough that it became integral to his brand. And then slowly, quietly, he activated the plan to move away from those things, to take advantage of the weakest and the most vulnerable among us, hoping no one would notice. But I noticed, and I hope that the whole world notices now. Check out my chair reviews.
So the questions I would have here about this are like, this rainforest organization, do they look at every single cocoa production company and determine like this one deserves it versus this one doesn't? Like, have they even reviewed whatever company he's working with now? And then the extension of that is, what company is he working with now? And then, you know, based on that company, what are their practices and track record and history of controversies with this kind of stuff, right? Asian audit is Jim over. True. Yeah, I mean, I would just like to know more about this. You know, I would like to know more because this is definitely possible, but I don't know that it is happening. You know, I need a little more. I need a little more. I'm not asking for that much more. I need a little more. This video is not totally convincing to me, but it's an interesting theory for sure behind his intentions, and like knowing from the start he'd have to do that if you want to scale up. And so like marketing it just enough around that aspect, just enough that it benefited him and made him look like a good guy in the short term. And then in the long term, once he really needed to scale up, abandoning that. It's very possible. I don't know. Is there a way to track it? What company manufactures Feastables? Manufactured in Peru by Machu Picchu Foods. Well, that's what the Wikipedia says, but this guy's claiming there was another company eventually, right? They stopped working with them exclusively. They had to scale up. New cocoa producers contract with contract Feastables news. Go on their website. No, I'm not interested to be in the MrBeast crew. Country Feastables chat. Find a store. Let's use the chat. What can I help you with? Who manufactures Feastables? Let's ask the MrBeast chat. Who manufactures Feastables? In a world where affordable chocolate is made of not so great ingredients and the better options are expensive, Feastables aims to be the best of both worlds. We love chocolate and snacks. We want to snack better. Feastables is bringing quality, ingredient conscious, eco-conscious, and taste bud conscious chocolate to the market. No, you didn't answer my question. Real person. Oh, I'm trying my fucking info. I'm not entering you my info, MrBeast. You don't need my full docs. God damn it. You don't need my full fucking gox, my full locks, my full box. Privacy policy, privacy requests. Please don't share my personal information. I want to know. Give him fake info. Well, I assume he's going to reach out to me via email, or whoever his reps are will reach out to me via email to answer the question. Probably Raytheon. Yeah, I'm sure the missile company is making them. Tom's a lyrical genius. Orange 4-inch door hinge. MrBeast touched my P hinge. Based. All right. Seems to be hidden on purpose. Maybe. Does every company list their cocoa manufacturers on their website though? Is it hidden on purpose? All right. Well, Interesting theory, but I'm not totally sold yet. But hopefully soon we can sell more children to child labor.